All right, so the previous armor guides were about the equipment, how calculations are done, just kind of more under the hood and understanding the tools. Now we're going to start getting into more of the strategy that we're going to use while operating these things. So I am not an authority on armor. I'm just a regular guy playing like any of you all. Here's some things that I've learned. Take it for what it's worth. There's going to be some other guys out there who are way better than me who will have many different opinions, and I would encourage you to listen to them. Trying to do a single comprehensive video on just vehicle strategy would be massive. It's not going to be of much use to a lot of people, so we're going to break it down. This particular one is going to be regarding crew setup and coordination, how you're interacting with each other and what your responsibilities are, what things you have to be sure get relayed to each other, to command chat, that kind of fun stuff. We'll have 2 more coming up. The next will be with regards to operational strategy. What are your objectives? Where are you going? What are you doing? And then lastly, we'll have one regarding engagement strategy, what you're actually doing during the fight and in the aftermath. So we'll dive in with that and see how that works out. Here's one that seems obvious. You've got to find someone to run armor with regularly. This is a must. You can't just be playing with random people every game and expect to get much better. You're going to get better, but nowhere near as good as you could get if you crew with someone regularly. You will both be growing, bouncing ideas off of each other, sharing in those victories and defeats and the lessons. Find someone who's interested in learning armor and putting in the work like you're doing, and ideally someone at your skill level would be the best way to grow in this. So you're running a crew and you have one member who is inexperienced. What seat should they sit in and why? If I've got 3 people, I would put the inexperienced person up in the command seat. That's going to be the place where they can cause the least damage, we'll say, and it gives them a chance to learn how the crew is working, see how the other guys are running things, and still contribute. They can still spot. If they've got an RWS weapon of some sort, they can still contribute to damage that way and learn. Put them in the command seat. It's a great spot to be for them. Doesn't mean command seat's not valuable, because it is. It's just the place where they can cause the least damage. The next seat where they should go, if you're just doing a 2-man crew and one of you is inexperienced, I would put the less experienced person in the gunner seat. And I know a lot of people don't like that because they want to have fun on the gun, but that's going to be the place, again, where you can cause the least damage. Funny enough, what I mean by the least damage is you're more likely to get out alive. If you've got the driver who's experienced, he can kind of pick better fights and get you out of sticky situations when he thinks things are going south. If you're bouncing shots or something as the gunner, that's fine. If you're not spotting someone like you should have, that's generally fine. Your driver's still going to have a chance to get you out of those bad situations. Now, let's suppose your tank crew is a mix of guys who are all experienced. Let's say most of them, everyone is over a 5 or a 6, we'll say, on a scale of 1 to 10. But one of you stands out and is like an 8 or a 9, we'll say. The best seat for a highly talented player is, once again, the gunner seat, because it's got the highest skill ceiling. These guys who are really talented will make rack shots that I would never make. They'll spot infantry that I would never spot. They will avoid TKs, which I am horrifically guilty of when I'm gone gun. Just everything about that has a higher skill ceiling in that seat. Put your best players in there if there's a major differential. If you're really wanting to kind of maximize your output on the tank, I'd put your highest skill players in the seat with the highest skill ceiling. And I know I'm stating the obvious here, but generally speaking, 2 vehicles are more powerful than 1. So you should be rolling in a wolf pack where you've got multiple vehicles. They don't even have to be the same type. You could have a Tiger RWS rolling with a BTR. That's fine. Stay together if you can with your fellow vehicles. You're going to have much better success rates whenever you do. Likewise, whenever one of you gets tracked or injured and needs help, the other is there to help cover for them, help get those repairs done. Or if you get stuck, the other one's there to bump you loose if you need to. There's so many advantages to rolling in a wolf pack. Do it. So you should be deciding who's wolf packing with you during the staging phase, trying to talk to them, establishing where you're going, what you're doing. Sometimes, though, those guys won't even respond to you. I would still suggest potentially even following them, even if they're not talking to you. Maybe just consider following them, especially if you're inexperienced. Just stay with one of the other armor crews. It's going to be a huge advantage. Unless they're doing something horrible and making horrible decisions with where they're putting the vehicle, it would still be a big advantage to follow that other vehicle around. Again, assuming they're not doing something horrible. We're coming.
All 3 enemy BTRs
All three BTRs up.
Three,
up
south
near
of
3.
command on the road. And 1, we're coming back around to your northeast to support.
They're up here near move.
He's in the tree line, trying to get behind you guys.
2, you want to come from good south?
Yeah, I'm hold. 1 down.
1 BTR down.
Raj.
1 down. 1 down.
Another one
You
down.
might as well take that radio 6.
On move, on move.
Two BTRs down.
Scratch 3. That's it. Good stuff.
RTB for ammo?
All 3 done.
Yeah, RTB.
Yeah, we're RTB for reload.
My squad and then me of 5 wing.
All right, so someone's got to be the squad lead. Who should be the squad lead? Let's take a 3-man crew, for example. We're going to run a tank. You've got the driver, the gunner, and the command seat. Who should be the squad lead? Well, you'll get a lot of different opinions on this one.
But clearly it should be the driver because the gunner has to be focused on the immediate threats and targets around him. Command chat's a major distraction to this. Let us stick with the driver.
Obviously, it should be the driver because he can react to moving the vehicle towards the targets or away from threats immediately when he hears these things called out in command chat instead of the other guys having to constantly relay that information back to him.
Obviously, it should be the gunner because he can react to targets called out by command chat faster than waiting on the other guys to tell him about it. Oh, look, there's a vehicle behind you. He can swing it around and shoot that vehicle much faster.
Let me make this perfectly clear. The proper seat is the command seat because the driver and the gunner are both busy with things that make it inconvenient for them to have to bring up the map and deal with command chat.
This debate could go on forever. There's really not a wrong answer, guys. Whoever wants to do it can do it. I personally like it to be with the driver. I think that makes the most sense and results in the least amount of having to relay information to other people. But just do it how you want, guys. It's not going to be some kind of make or break decision. All right, so we're saying you're the SL. What are some of the other things you need to be handling? Since we're still in the pregame here, one of the big things to knock out is being sure someone brings forward some extra build for a rep. Talk with the other squad leads. They're loading up their logies. Ask if some of them can bring some extra build to help you cover that later. This is especially true if they've only got tracked logies. You want to get this handled quick because there are so few players who like to do logi runs with tracked vehicles. It's such a pain for them, so you're less likely to get that build later. If you've got a heli, that helps because usually they're much more helpful, assuming they're not shot down and assuming that they are competent. So you'll have a little help from them. But if you're an armored faction, you don't have a heli, all you have are those tracked logis. It can be rough to get that forward rep established. So make that plan early and encourage someone to do those logi runs if you're in that situation. And I'm sorry to keep stating the obvious, but communication is going to be so critical because one of your biggest advantages or disadvantages is going to be intelligence. And I mean, knowing where the enemy is going to be huge. If you can find out where the enemy vehicles are before they know where you are, that gives you a massive leg up in winning any fight. Sometimes you'll be in command chats that aren't terribly talkative, and so you've got to be comfortable in trying to get that intelligence from them. Guys, has anyone seen or heard any vehicles or seen or heard the tank? And you'll just hear crickets. And so you've got to kind of keep pressing them for this. Come on, guys. Someone's got to have heard something. Is there any intel out there? Has anyone seen or heard anything? So don't be scared to be a little assertive to get that information from the other squad lead. And in the same vein, you have to be sharing vehicle intelligence with the rest of your team as soon as you're aware. And be sure you mark it with the proper icon for the full team to be aware. When you kill an enemy vehicle that's significant, you want to announce that in command chat. Any kind of IFV, the tank killers, even a logi, I would say all of those are significant, and I would report all of those in command chat. Also, I would suggest tracking the time of death in the game. Say if there's 1 hour and 30 minutes remaining, I would put 1 hour and 30 minutes, MBT dead, up in team chat just to track that so you know later when it's going to respawn, and the rest of the team can know that as well. And comms is probably one of the bigger pet peeves a lot of people have, and I'm one of them. When you're talking with other squads in command chat, there's things you should try to avoid when you can. One of the worst ones is when someone says, "Enemy tank on my mark." And then I have to look down to see, well, who is even talking? I don't know this person. And I don't even see the icon's gone. I can't tell who was talking. The little indicator as to who was speaking is gone. So who was it? Now I have to spend time. Who was that? Who said they saw the tank? And he responds and says, "Oh, this is Squad 9." And so, okay, now I'm scouring the map looking for Squad 9's mark. I can't find it. So, okay, well, let me go find Squad 9 now. I go over to the left-hand list, look for Squad 9, click on his name. Ah, there's Squad 9 down there. Okay, and now I can trace up from Squad 9 to find his mark. This is so inefficient compared to the faster ways that you have for marking this kind of stuff. And here's another divisive one, but I'm going to say it. Enemy tank at Echo 584. So they'll call out the map coordinates and then not follow up with marking it on the map for you. And so, of course, you'll have to pull up your map and reference the coordinates, take the time, figure out where exactly he's talking about. This is annoying and inefficient. And if you complain about it and say, man, just put the mark on the map next time, they'll say, well, you need to learn how to read the map, buddy. No, you need to mark it the more efficient way. Please use the indicators when you can. It's totally fine to say, hey, Echo 584 tank there, just to establish the relative location in the beginning. But please save people time from having to go reference the grid and just put the mark down. It makes it much easier on everyone to do that. I know some people have this fetish with milsim callouts or whatnot, but when you've got a better method, use the better method. So you're playing Mutaha, one of the points is ammo warehouse, and you see a tank there. I would simply say enemy tank at ammo warehouse, and then bring up the map, mark the red icon there for the tank, and that's it. Now I get sometimes you're too busy, you're frantically trying to deal with something, and you don't have time to do all that. That's fine, call out what you can, and people will deal with it. But within the next 10 or 15 seconds, you ought to have time to pop the map open and get that mark on there. And yes, when it comes to helicopter pilots who are tracking a moving target, they get a pass. They do need to establish the relative location of it for the first update and say, hey, the tank's here at ammo warehouse. But as they're tracking it afterwards, we now know he's tracking it on their mark. So that's fine. Just keep updating your mark. In fact, that's a massive advantage. I love playing with helicopter pilots like that on my team. When you've got another squad who's bothering to give you intel, you need to respond to them. Even if the thing they called out is across the map 5 minutes away on the other end of Manicougan, you want the other squad leads to know that their intel is valuable and you want it to keep coming because intel is the source of your largest advantage. If you just go silent thinking, well, I'm nowhere near that, I'm not going to respond to it, and no one responds to him, they're going to think, man, why am I even bothering to call this out? No one's using it. No one's responding. And so they'll just stop providing it. When someone is marking tank and you're 2 minutes away, get them on private comms and acknowledge, say, hey, copy that. I'm 2 minutes out, but keep me posted on that. Man, and that makes all of the difference in the world to the squad leads who want to try and help you with that intel. And yes, there's some people who go a little too far with this, calling out every vehicle multiple times, constantly calling out everywhere they see a helicopter flying around for 5 minutes straight. Yeah, sometimes they go too far with that. But if they're giving you decent intel, then respond to those guys if you can. And you've heard me talk about 2- and 3-man crews. And of course, you can have 4-man crews on some of the tanks, as well as the T-62, Challenger, Leopard, and M1A2. I think those all support having 4 seats. So yeah, use it if you want. If you've got an extra person you can throw in there for an extra set of eyes, and they don't mind sitting in the open top suicide seat or whatever, man, go for it. It can be a lot of fun, and the extra eyes always helps. You'll sometimes see squads running multiple vehicles, say multiple IFVs in a single squad or whatnot. If you're getting started into this, I would avoid that. I would avoid having multiple vehicles in a single squad until you're ready for it, because it can get unnecessarily confusing and overwhelming at times. Once you're more comfortable, it can make sense and be advantageous at times, and it can help limit command chatter. Plus, it can just be more fun if you're in a squad with your friends and you can talk to them at any point. There are some negatives, though, because it's going to cause problems for you. If you're the SL or whoever's the SL, it's going to cause problems with crosstalk between 2 vehicles. You've got 2 vehicles operating. You're going to be hearing each other's cross chatter a lot of times, which is going to be confusing. Also, if command chat says, hey, squad 1, you've got a lav chasing you. Well, who are they talking about? Are they talking about my vehicle, or are they talking about the other one? So there's a lot of downsides to doing multiple vehicles in a single squad. There can be some fun to be had, though. As if the server allows it, and you're not breaking any name claim rules and you want to try it, it's fine to do it. There are some people who get really annoyed by this, though, so be warned of that. And, buyer beware. Some other people may approach you and say, come on, Squad 1, why do you have both of the LAVs? We want to run one, too. Why do you have both of them? You may run into that kind of stuff more frequently when you do it because it can annoy some other people. And I'm not here to say whether or not it's right or wrong. I'm just saying be aware that it might annoy some of the other people. Good crews that play together regularly will listen to each other, especially the experienced ones. This is going to be especially important when we're talking about danger to your vehicle. In my crew, if anyone calls out that we should leave an area for fear of getting immobilized or ambushed by lurking infantry, it's usually a good idea to leave and I'm out of there. If anyone in my crew would call for a definitive retreat from somewhere, then there should be no hesitation, and everyone should focus on retreating. No arguing, no bemoaning how, oh, that's a bad call. Just get out. Survival is paramount. Retreating from a fight that you thought you could win is better than dying in a fight that you thought you could win. Regardless of your position on this crew, you have to let the others know when you think you're in danger. Don't just sit there and be quiet because you think, oh, I'm not the squad lead, I shouldn't make that call. No, you've got to relay when you think something's wrong or when you think you're in danger. All right, short and sweet on this one. You need to bind your observe order key somewhere useful where you can hit it all of the time. You don't have to pull your hands up off the keyboard or off the mouse to go hit it. Bind it somewhere useful because you are going to use it a lot. You should be using it a lot from any of the positions. Get that handled if you don't have it handled already. Okay, you got 3 positions: gunner, driver, command seat. Let's talk about some of the duties of each of them. We'll start with the gunner. So the gunner, when an engagement actually begins and you're pushing a target, attacking a target, the gunner should be in control of the tank once it started. Whatever he says, you should be listening to it because unless you need to veto him for some reason, you should be listening to the gunner. It doesn't mean he needs to micromanage things, but it does mean that the driver has to execute pretty much anything the gunner's asking for. And same with the command seat. If the gunner's asking you to go look somewhere else or handle some other target, listen and do it. Don't sit there and question him. Just do it. The gunner should be trying to maximize time to kill. As soon as he shoots that round out of the tank, if you're in a tank, he should be spamming that reload key to get that reload going as fast as possible. And he can simply hold the fire down. If he can get on target and he's waiting for the reload to finish, he should be holding down the fire button so that it fires as soon as possible. And just keep this cycle going as fast as you can because time to kill is everything. You've got to get on target, get those rounds shot as soon as you can. Whatever the gunner is shooting at should get marked by an observe order. Someone in the crew should have it marked. If it's not marked already, the gunner should mark it with an observe order as long as he's not sacrificing time to kill. Time to kill takes precedence over everything. But if you've got time to mark that observe order on it, go ahead and do that. That way the rest of your team can go out there on the command map and get the proper icon down for the entire team to know what you're engaging out there. When you're actively hunting another enemy vehicle, the driver is trying to get you an angle so that you can see him. Once you can see him, don't just sit there and silently line up your shot. Let the driver know you've got eyes on him. And usually that means he needs to stop right there. If you want him to keep moving or whatever, let him know, but just communicate that you've got eyes. Let him know, I see the target, or I've got eyes, whatever. The other important thing to remember is that as soon as you've got eyes on him, you are now the one in charge of the tank. You need to be dictating where it goes. Keep that in mind. It's going to go where you say, and the driver's kind of relinquishing control of everything to you. Wherever you say you need to be, we're going to move there. Is he dead?
Hi.
All right. When I'm driving a tank, I love when the gunner calls out how many penetrations he's hitting on an enemy tank, because that helps me judge whether or not we should get out of a fight. I can see how healthy our tank is. I know if we're half health or whatever, but I have no clue a lot of the times how far into the fight we are with the enemy tank. So if the gunner can call out 1 pin, 2 pin, that gives me an idea mentally how far along we are into this. Most tank fights are over with either 4 or 5 penetrations at most, unless it's a really long range fight. So yeah, call those out if you can. It helps the driver a lot in judging when they should bail out of a fight. If the target vehicle that you're looking at is hull down, you need to call that out because you all need to decide very quickly if you're going to take that fight or no. If you're both hull down, then fine. If you're sitting in the wide open and he's hull down, that's probably not a fight that you want to be taking unless you think they really suck for some reason. Call that out as soon as you see it so y'all can make that decision.
Looks like you got to add.
Hold down. Hold down. Get out of here. Get out of here. Back out. Smoke him.
Anytime that vehicle or that target that you're shooting at is disabled in some way, call that out. If he's turreted, tracked, engined, wheeled, whatever, call it out. That's going to affect how your driver's approaching the fight, and it's going to be something that you need to relay to command chat, and you might even ask the command to put a strike on that or something of that nature. So call everything out when you're disabling vehicles. When your turret takes damage, it can mean a lot of different things. Once you're under 50%, you lose stabilization, as we know. But what we don't know is whether or not you want to stay in that fight. If you want to stay in the fight as the gunner, then tell them, say, yeah, stabilization's gone, hold still. That lets the driver know we're staying in this. If your turret is near totally destroyed, your driver is going to see that and think, well, we may need to get out, but maybe you're dead on target and you can still take the fight. So don't just say turret's gone or turret's out. Give them a course of action, what you think we should do. Moving on to talk about the driver's duties. He's got to keep his team informed as to the health of the tank because he's got the best insight on that. Keep it brief and concise when you're giving updates. If damage comes in or a shot comes in and it bounces, just say no damage or we're 80%. Try to avoid distracting the gunner or the command seat as much as you can. You don't want them worried about talking to you. You want them focused on the targets.
Lodge in charge.
No damage. A lot of your gunners will appreciate a heads up before a really sharp turn, especially on the vehicles where the stabilization is horrible or that have super, super slow turret speeds like T62 and your Sprut, your MGS, ZBD04, all of those really slow turrets. Because sometimes what they'll do is literally turn off stabilization so that the turret will just turn with the tank naturally and stabilization won't be fighting it like it often does. So yeah, give them a heads up whenever you want to make a sharp turn if you can. As the driver, one of your big jobs is finding cover, trying to get hull down positions or at least partially covered positions. And you need to clarify to your team, especially when you're about to start or starting an engagement, you need to let them know if you're wide open and exposed or if you're hull down or in partial cover or whatever. Just give a brief update on that. It helps everyone understand because if the gunner sees that the enemy is hull down while you're totally exposed, you should instantly know that's not a fight that you generally want. So communicate that clearly to your crew. If you're posted up in a good position, maybe you're hull down behind a dune or something and you're just scanning the horizon trying to find targets, if it's safe, you can jump out of the tank and get your binocs out and help them scan for targets. It's a good way to get some extra eyes out with better magnification. You don't just have to sit there looking out the viewport, but only do this if it's safe. And I would kind of step away from the tank a little bit just in case a shot does come in. Step away from the tank a few feet before you do that. Without fail, you're going to be asked to take the vehicle that you're crewing into an area that you think is too dangerous. Don't let people convince you through pressure to take the vehicle into somewhere that's likely going to kill it. Yes, you should be trying to help your troops out, but you shouldn't be sent on suicide missions to go in and try and rescue something that has little chance of success. Use your judgment. If they tell you to do something that you're pretty sure is a bad idea, don't do it. You don't have to.
Move. Okay, we have tanks up. Can we push fucking tanks and take communication outpost?
Yeah, Mills, we just killed a BMP there. I got to wait for he's just leaving main. I'm happy to push, but the problem is we are massively outgunned. They've got 5 tank killers. I've got 2. So if we just roll in there, we're going to lose them all and get y'all raped by like 30 tickets.
I mean, brother, at this point, I say fucking send it, man. We'll push and support with you. And
we're going to be pushing as soon as he's up here. We're definitely going to be pushing up there. Just give me a moment.
Let's go back to where we were before. We'll have better side shots.
Yep, sounds good. Again, I'm stating the obvious. Whenever you lose a fight or whatever, don't go toxic on your teammates. Don't get depressed. Don't give them the silent treatment, whatever. You're a team. Stick with it. You're going to get better. This game's been out for a while. There's a lot of people out there who've crewed vehicles longer than me, you, and most people out there. So it's going to be rough. Brief discussion and analysis is fine. Just don't try and sit there and lecture each other, especially right after a tough loss. People are going to be raw or whatever. So, use some discretion. Encouragement is really what you want to be hearing from each other. Good teammates will tend to rally around each other and pump each other up even whenever things go south. Take that approach if you can. All right, that's going to be a wrap on this. I think 24 minutes is more than enough for talking about the vehicle squad setup, how you should be communicating with the rest of your team, how you should be working with the rest of your squad. So we'll stop there. Hopefully there was something decent in there that you guys can put to use out there on the field. So here's the obligatory place where I say, hey, give me likes and subscribes and comments, right? So guys, I'm new at this. I don't know anything. I'm not monetized, super tiny channel. I barely know what I'm doing. I'm just doing this because I know when I started doing armor, there weren't a ton of resources answering these kinds of questions. So hopefully some of you new guys get to enjoy some of this stuff and it answers a few things. And likewise, hopefully I will see you guys out there running armor with me sometime. We'll talk to you later.